Wyoming News Now starts now.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Valeria Fugate. Let's start with our weather. Austin, what do we have today?
And thanks, Valeria. Taking a look at our current temperatures around the area, it's a cool one right now all around, especially for June. But we are going to just get into the 60s here for Cheyenne, 64 in Wheatland, 66 in Casper, and a lot of mid-60s all around the Cowboy State here today. But if we take a look at our radar and satellite, there's a reason why it's so cool. This rain is moving on through the area. Right now it's moving off to the north, spanning all the way from Scottsbluff through over to Rollins, and more rain is coming up from the south and will be coming over the Colorado-Wyoming border. So while this rain starts to move off towards Casper, we've got more coming in from below the Wyoming border. As we take a look at our upcoming weather for today, storms are likely here for the Cheyenne area. We do have a rain chance through our overnight hours too, and into tomorrow we'll have the rain into our evening a little later on than today. Heading on over to Casper, again storms are likely today as we saw that rain starting to move on towards the Casper area. Rain chance into this evening and a chance of rain again into tomorrow. So a wet day today for sure and tomorrow, but I'll have a look on what more you can expect later on. Let's head back to the desk.
Thanks, Austin. The University of Wyoming School of Energy Resource Management is now adding to their integrated test center. It's part of Wyoming's continued effort to support carbon capture technologies and maintain environmental health. The test center provides space for researchers to test how carbon capture can be used in useful ways. This effort is challenging companies to develop technologies to convert CO2 emissions from power plants into valuable products.
For the university, it definitely fits into our portfolio related to helping the coal industry find new uses for coal, as well as to minimize the impact on the environment with carbon emissions. So it's an exciting development for the university, and it definitely fits in with the work that's happening in our School of Energy Resources.
The program will raise the profile of Wyoming as leaders in carbon capture and help support local and state economies. Kurt Gowdy's family came together on Saturday to bring a dream to life in honor of the late, great sportscaster. Kurt Gowdy's daughter, Cheryl, had a vision that a little house would one day sit on the land of the state park named after her father. 5 years later, the family came together to cut the ribbon on that vision. Cheryl said it's a moment she'll hold near and dear in her heart.
This is the best day of my life, truly, and I've had a lot of wonderful days, but there's so much love and friendship around me, and talent, and arts and talents, and people that really love me and care about me, but care more about what we're doing. It doesn't get any much better than that.
The house is located right by the visitor center of Kurt Gowdy State Park. It's designed to inspire youth to be kind, just like Kurt is remembered by his family for his kindness. Kurt Gowdy Jr. says the location is a perfect spot to honor his father's legacy. The little house on the park is now open to the public. The Wyoming Rescue Mission held their annual Fishin' for the Mission tournament on Friday. Our Nick Paniagua went down there to check out the fundraiser.
The Wyoming Fishin' for the Mission is a fundraiser for the Wyoming Rescue Mission's year-long discipleship program to help those who want to get their life back on track due to any kind of issue. The fundraiser includes a fishing tournament, and community engagement coordinator Adam Fleck dives into the details.
We get people to purchase boats either with their company or individually, typically with companies around the state of Wyoming. All the money that we are able to bring in with the tournament goes towards our discipleship program and any needs around the mission.
Held at the Red Butte Ranch, the participants who gone fishing got up bright and early to get the tournament started. Guide Tyler Solik talked about his experience on the creek today.
We've just had so much moisture that the river has dealt with a lot of creeks dumping mud in, and we've had to be selective with where we were going and finding fish. The nice thing is when it's off color, you usually catch a little bigger fish. So we caught some really nice fish today and got to fight a bunch and lose a bunch, and yeah, it's always good.
Although he's not directly involved with the organization, Solik sings nothing but praises for all the fundraiser and the mission is working for.
The mission does an amazing job of helping people that are in need, and You know, we're called to care for those that are in need, and the mission fills that space. They get a bunch of amazing volunteers, and their management is incredible. They have a purpose that's very driven and focused.
The mission has held the tournament for nearly a decade, and they are already holding registrations for the event next year.
Especially for next year, we have an early bird registration. If you get signed up before the end of the year, we'll give a discount. We also are always looking for sponsorships. If somebody wants to pay for a breakfast, lunch, whatever it may be, obviously it's saving the mission money and contributing in a good way as well. We will fill up pretty quickly. The tournament typically does, but we'd love to have some new people out there if we can.
If you would like to get registered and involved for next year, go to wyomission.org and contact Adam Flack. For Wyoming News Now, I'm Nick Peniagua.
If you've traveled through the state this spring, you've likely noticed a number of bridge construction projects. Doug McGee has the details on this week's WYDOT report.
While much of this year's highway construction is focused on road resurfacing, travelers can still expect to see numerous bridge work projects across the state. WYDOT owns and maintains nearly 2,000 bridges, all of which are inspected at least once every 2 years.
And from that inspection, they'll generate a report that kind of indicates kind of the lifespan left of it.
All bridges, like the 3 in the West River Road project near Warland, eventually require demolition and replacement. However, many can have their lifespan extended through rehabilitation work at a fraction of the cost.
So it just depends on what the bridge needs. You know, if they replace an entire deck, basically, that could give you anywhere between 15 to 30 years more.
This year, WYDOT will contract to replace 8 bridges and rehabilitate 33.
There's federal money set aside specifically for bridge rehab, and that number has increased over the years, so that's why you see more bridge rehabs than you see reconstructs. So.
Expect to see bridge projects statewide throughout the summer. The work zones are generally short, but require caution with greatly reduced speeds and narrow travel lanes.
Just look for the traffic signs, obey the traffic laws and speed limits.
Reminding you to slow down in work zones and always buckle up. This is Doug McGee reporting.
Wyoming News Now starts now.
Good evening, and thank you for watching Wyoming News Now. I'm Valeria Fugate. Happy Father's Day to all the amazing dads out there. Let's jump into weather with Carl. What's the weather looking like, Carl?
Well, we have some spectacular conditions coming our way. Going to be beautiful. We're going to make it into the mid-80s. Be a great way to start out our week. We'll have a breeze or two for some of us. Skies are trying to clear. Scattered cloud makes its way through here and there. And with those mid-80s, that mild weather making it back in, a little bit of breeze is going to be tolerable. Plus, it's going to dry us out fairly quickly, in fact. The other thing that's going to dry us out is many of us are going to be in the upper 80s and even a 90 or 2, if you can believe that. We do have some of that is going to be fairly warm for us into eastern Wyoming. Western Wyoming still staying fairly cool, and that transfer of that heat from one side to the other, that usually encourages the winds to blow no matter what our area is across the Cowboy State. For us in southeastern Wyoming, it looks to be a little breezy. Also for us in central and western Wyoming, once that breeze kicks up, it's going to stay with us. And we'll talk about what else is coming our way in the full forecast. That's going to be in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Carl. Parts of Casper has seen a lot of water recently. Areas in Natrona County High School and Three Crown Golf Course saw threats of flood activity. On West 13th Street and Sycamore, cars have been having a hard time moving. Some got stuck in high waters. On Pine Street, a house had water up to its power meters, almost drowning half of the AC unit. Casper has been issued a flood risk for the next couple of days as rain threats continue. Continuing with Wyoming's high rains in the spring and summer, our reporter John Habershaw takes a look at how it's affecting fish and wildlife.
This time last year, Wyoming experienced 35 centimeters in total rain in the month of June. This year, however, there's already been a total of 1.8 inches of rainfall in just 15 days in June alone. So what does this mean for the wildlife?
Well, this is excellent news for really all of Wyoming's wildlife when we have really good, wet, sustained springs like this.
Coming off of a winter where there was high snow totals, the soil moisture across the state has been great. And with the rain comes plenty of green vegetation for animals to feed on.
What's really important for our big game to have good fawn production, calf production, that sort of thing is moms need to enter the winter in pretty good shape. They need to go into winter with a lot of fat on their backs, and it helps them get through pregnancy.
The game aren't the only ones benefiting from the wet start to the summer. Fish have also been reaping the benefits.
The reservoir levels, a lot of the lakes and stuff that were getting really low have all recovered, and so there's good water in there. Lessens the threat of winter kill this coming winter, so that's a really good thing. Good stream flow in the streams tends to keep water temperatures down as we get into the hotter part of the summer, so that's good for fish.
And it's not just the fish and wildlife who enjoy the weather we've been having recently. This also gives the perfect opportunity for anyone to grab their fishing rod and hopefully catch a fish.
And being an ex-fisherman and hunter, I love it because it's feeding the birds and also the wildlife.
It's really great. It's been wonderful for our lawns, our plants, all of our landscape, so we haven't had to water, which is huge out here because normally you're really pouring the water to your yard.
For Wyoming News Now, I'm John Habershaw.
Governor Mark Gordon is taking Wyoming's fight to Capitol Hill. He's pushing a bill that would undercut the Bureau of Land Management's effort to conserve public lands. Our Washington Bureau reporter Molly Martinez tells us why it's bad for business.
Governor Mark Gordon sat before a committee and argued that no one knows how to take better care of Wyoming than Wyomingites. But opponents of the bill say this will fuel an already dire climate crisis.
I was raised by a dad who often reminded me, Christy, we don't sell land because God's not making any more land.
South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem came to the Capitol Wednesday to stump for a bill that would strip the Bureau of Land Management's authority to, quote, protect intact landscapes, restore degraded habitat, and make wise management decisions based on science and data. Wyoming Governor Mark Gordon speculates that the rule was put in place by political, not environmental motivations.
One can only assume from broad sweeping statements of this rule that it was pushed from the top down to serve an agenda rather than improve management of the public lands.
But opponents argue the rule does far more good than harm.
It's not going to cut off development. It's not going to cut off our ranchers from grazing. It's not going to cut off oil and gas. It's not going to cut off mining. It's going to make sure that we are adequately balancing the needs of conservation, protecting our cultural landscapes, and ensuring that we are also balancing that with our resource management.
A handful of Great Plains governors have already signed off on this bill. It is unlikely that it will ever make it past the president's desk. On Capitol Hill, I'm Molly Martinez.
U.S. Senators Cynthia Lummis and John Barrasso have teamed up with Governor Mark Gordon to present the Wyoming Federal Funding Summit. Saturday was the last of the three-day summit that took place in Sheridan. Our James McDowell spoke with Gordon about the importance of the event.
Let's just say hypothetically, if I was wanting to work on a big project and I was wanting to get some federal funding, but I didn't know how to go about that. Would this be a good place to go?
Cities like Casper or Cheyenne have got pretty sophisticated granting offices. People can write those grants. But when you look at a place like Midwest or the town I grew up in, KC, in the case of KC, it's maybe a restaurant owner or a tire shop owner who's the mayor. There's an accountant that maybe doubles as somebody who's going to administer the city. And what we wanted to do is to make sure that we had the resources available, the training available, so that a community like Edgerton, which is really looking at a water project, is able to get the federal dollars that can make that project work for them.